You can do
Rolling
that.
now?
Yeah.
Take two.
Maybe in front of the camera as well.
God almighty. There you go.
I'll do it. It's fine.
Right.
Yeah, this must give you confidence, Mummy, right? We're gonna.
Okay. All right.
Right, okay. Well, I've brought these shoes in to show you today not because I want to tell a story about myself, but because they remind me of somebody. They're my beach walking shoes, but I've had them quite a long time, probably 8 years, maybe 9 years, something like that. Probably since I came, or just before I came back to Bexhill. And they always remind me of a girl that I knew at college called Claire, who was quite a personality, and I felt that she projected herself really well. You know, you got to know her quite quickly, and she had very strong views about things. So the shoes just bring her to mind. She had reddish hair as well, which perhaps that's the connection. I don't know why. I always think of Claire when I see these shoes. She had quite a few problems in her life that she talked about, but it didn't stop her being very concerned about other people and about the things that they did and about what was going on around her. For instance, one day she told me that she was very worried about people who did fly tipping because of the effect it could have on the environment, and she said she would go out and she would film people fly tipping because she could report them then, and they would, you know, be brought to justice, because she felt very strongly about it. And another day she said, I scratched somebody's car today, and I said, why did you do that? And she said, well, they were parked in such an inconsiderate way, she said. They were blocking the entrance to a nursing home, and if an ambulance or something like that wanted to get there, they wouldn't be able to, so I scratched their car, which I thought, well, that's taking the law into your own hands, but I could see, you know, that she felt very strongly about that. And then another day, when she came, she used to come on the train, and she used to use the things around her to make art with. So one day she'd made this really beautiful, I can't remember what it was a model, and she'd used all her train tickets that she had every day. And it was incredible what she'd done with them, you know, she just saved them all and made something really attractive with it. So I admired her, and I admired her work. She sometimes found it difficult to complete things or to sort of have any structure in her life because of things that were going on. She lost her mum and she lost her grandma in a very short space of time, and that affected her very, obviously, very deeply. And I think she found it quite hard to trust some people. You know, people had let her down in her life, I think. So she was always looking for somebody that she could talk to, and she could feel that they were responding in a way that she found true, you know, honest. And I think I could feel that whenever she talked to you. She wanted to confide in you, but at the same time she was a little bit wary of confiding in you. So one day we were in the sculpture workshop, and she was just chatting and talking about how hard things had been, and she'd thrown her boyfriend out. She for some reason, I think he'd let her down quite badly, and I think he'd possibly been exploiting her for money or something like that, so she'd thrown him out. And she was also on quite a lot of medication as well, and I said to her, are you taking it? And she said, well, sometimes I do. And then you'd go through periods of time when you didn't see her for quite a long time, and she'd come back. And one time in the sculpture workshop we were talking, and she was talking about how she hadn't been well, and she talked about voices that she heard, which I was quite surprised that she would confide that in me, because, you know, although I got to know her quite well, I wasn't a close friend, but I think she wanted to sort of tell somebody. So yeah, that was Claire. And then I never saw her for a couple of years. And then she came back again, and she was going to start her course again, but she was really pleased to see me because I was a familiar face from the old days when she'd been there a few years before. But she only came and visited, and she said she was coming back, but she never did. So I haven't seen her since. she talked about going to Berlin Gap quite a lot and going and drawing over there. And I thought the other day, I remembered her because I went over there for a visit. And I thought, oh, well, maybe Claire's here doing some drawing, but she wasn't. And that was the last I saw her.
Yeah, I remember Claire.
Yeah. Do you remember her piece of work that she did, the knitted heart? That was the other thing.
that
She was
was
very
it, yes.
fond of Louise Bourgeois, wasn't she? And I didn't know Louise Bourgeois' work at all when I first started. And she talked about her work. And then later I discovered Louise Bourgeois as well, and I thought of Claire again, you know, because she was a very interesting person.
That went into our final exhibition, didn't it?
That's right, the knitted heart. Yes. Do you remember it?
I do.
Yes. So it was poignant, I think, her work, but also poignant because of her story.
Describe the knitted heart.
The knitted heart was a piece that was suspended. She used lots of wool, and I suppose it did remind me very much when I later discovered Louise Bourgeois' work. I thought it did remind me very much because it was the way it was hung more than anything probably, and it had that sort of slight disconnection with the ground, but also because of the way the wool hung down the strings, you know, it was trying to connect. So that was my feeling about it. Do you remember that? No.
I do remember the idea of the knitted heart. I do,
Yes.
but that's just such a glorious thing, isn't it? Trying to connect.
Yeah, and I thought that was part of Claire really. She was always trying to connect because of her perhaps bad experiences she'd had, and because life perhaps had let her down a bit really, and she'd had things happen that, you know, you probably couldn't really imagine.
Some of the interviews we've had, it's just like some little phrase absolutely pops out at me.
Yes.
And the ones that you've just said along the way, it's like looking for a true response,
Yeah.
which goes with trying to connect, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Because you can't connect unless you get a true response.
No,
You
no,
have to
that's
feel
right.
that.
Yeah. And I always felt she had that sincerity, you know, which sometimes it's dangerous sometimes, isn't it? Sometimes to be too trusting can be a dangerous thing. So, yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, she was
And
a.
that was the shoes, and she liked these shoes. She always said, I like those shoes, Marie. I like those.
Well, just to ask you about your experience of the shoes, can we just do that quickly?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right. So when you say your beach shoes.
Yeah, they're my beach shoes because when I bought them, I thought I didn't really feel very comfortable with them. You know, not because they weren't comfortable to wear, but I thought they're not really me. You know, they weren't. You know how some shoes are you, and you think, yes, these are. They weren't really me. Maybe the colour. I don't know. I quite like the colour. So I started wearing them on the beach because they're good for keeping the stones out, you know, whereas the other sandals let all the stones in. These are good, and you can see where the sea waters sort of wash them away because I don't care if they get wet, you know, or anything like that. So they're gradually wearing away, but they're still good. They're still good for going in the water and going on the stones.
There's a question that I've tried to ask people, you know, like try to get it in somewhere all the time. So I'll ask you: if you put those shoes on, you leave your house, what are you walking away from?
What am I walking away from? I'm walking away from quiet, I suppose. I'm walking towards excitement, walking towards the wild side, you know, something wild on the beach. I don't know. There's always a wildness about the beach, isn't there? And that's what it is, yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Can I ask something? Oh,
Well, that's true.
all
I
right.
think Sandra wants to
wanna-
ask you
yeah.
something.
Oh, yeah, go.
What is it about her in particular that made you remember her so vividly and for such a long time?
Because she was quite a vivid character, I think. You know, she wasn't frightened of speaking her mind, and she wasn't frightened of doing something that she felt was right, you know, even if it was perhaps, you know, questionable morally. She had a strong sense of morality and of what was right, and of even of where she was going in a way, you know, in her sort of self-expression. So I respected that. I respected it.
Do you feel that this is something that you're alike to her in, or you're very different to her?
difficult. I think we both were interested in art, so that's always a good, it's a good bridge, it's a bond. And I think maybe she was ahead of me, in quite a lot of ways, because I think when I first started at art college, I hadn't got a clue what it was all about, really. I was very much living in the past, I suppose. And I think Claire was in the moment, and that was probably something that, I would have wanted to be. Maybe she was a bit like a younger me might have been. I don't know. Just a thought.
That's great.
Is that all right?
Did you have another one?
I'm thinking.
When you just said what you just said, that makes me feel like walking out of quiet to wild.
Yeah. I just, But that's true. I mean, the beach is always somewhere, isn't it, where there's,
But the red shoes, red shoes are supposed to sort of somewhat, they tell that story, don't they? Red shoes.
Yeah, red shoes.
Which is like you leave quiet and you become.
I know. I had
to the point of hysteria, which ain't so great.
Shoes when I first left home as well. I had a pair of red, and they were like those, like these, but they were red, and that was probably a, leave home thing. Red shoes, off you go. Red umbrella. Out you go into the world. Fledgling me.
When you did that, what did you leave behind?
What did I leave behind? I left behind Bexhill, actually. Bexhill was very quiet in those days, and I went to the city, so that was a big change for me. Very big change. I suppose I left behind my childhood in a way. So the red shoes moved me on to the next stage. Because I led a very sheltered life here, and I was on my own up there, completely on my own, which was hard in some ways and good in others.
You thought, oh God, I'm on my own, and it was just not.
No, I don't think so, because I love days on my own sometimes. I can think of some of my best times have been when I've been on my own, when I've had a chance to do something that I want to do, where I'm totally, haven't got anybody else, that I've got to think of or plan for or do things with. I like that freedom, not all the time, but just, those exciting, they're good moments. So, although loneliness obviously is not desirable, I think being alone is a different thing. That's my take anyway.
Is there anything you would like, if you would ever meet her again, is there anything you would like to tell her?
I'd have a chat. I think I'd like to talk to her about her work, and I'm sure she'll still have work. She'll still be working, and that's another thing that I respect enormously, because I think a lot of people that go to art college, they start off, and then things get in the way. You make excuses. You don't do much. You're lazy. You've got other things in your life, and you don't carry on. But I'm sure Claire will be one of the people who keeps on working, keeps on expressing what she wants to express through her work. I'm sure she will.
Are you going to keep on working, Marie?
Yeah, in a way. I will gradually get back to it, although it hasn't been too good lately. I will get back. Yeah, definitely.
There's one more thing that we should have done at the beginning, but we didn't do, so we'll do at the end if that's okay.
Yeah.
Could you tell your name and a little bit about yourself, what you do, for somebody that would meet you the first time?
Yeah, okay. My name's Marie. I live in Bexhill. I've lived here at different times of my life, so I've come back to Bexhill after being away for a long time. And when I came back, I went to Hastings Art College to do an art degree, because I'd always wanted to do it when I was younger and I didn't. And I think it's been marvellous for, sort of regeneration really. Having retired from my career, now I've got something new in my life, as well as lots of grandchildren and other things. But yeah, it's been a good experience to come back, but now I'm possibly moving on again. I'll see, we'll see. Yeah, the shoes again, you see. Moving on, new shoes.
All right.
Yeah?
Yep, great.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well,
It's wonderful because there are just little threads appearing now which are going to be so incredibly useful. I mean, actually, red shoes are becoming one.
Yes.
Yes.
That is a good starting point, isn't it? Yeah.
Walking away from quietness or walking away from the demands has become
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So some people are going to the quietness and some people are coming, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a woman who came in, and every time she puts on these shoes, she walks the dog. It's very an echo there about I'm
Yeah.
leaving demand.
And you do have certain shoes for certain aspects of your life, don't you? Or for certain things you're going to do, or which, and if you haven't got them, it's quite frustrating if you can't find the right shoes, isn't it? It's quite, there's something about that they're part of the experience that you're going to have somehow, I suppose. Always like shoes. Always. Anyway, there we are.
Before you go, I wanted to take some cutaways with the shoes. If that's okay. Yeah. You can hold them if you want. You were holding them very nice earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, there was another
Like
wonderful
that
thing you did, Marie. It was the strings.
Oh, don't. That's.
No, it really, seriously, and trying to connect.
I didn't know what I was going to say about that. I thought, oh gosh, what was it about her work, and why do I remember it quite, vividly? And that came into my head. I don't know why.
Trying to connect in a true response. That's going to be in our script.
Well, it has to be. Yeah. I don't want to say anything personal about.
I won't. Claire's name will not
No,
appear.
that's
in
what
the
I
edit.
thought. Yeah.
Definitely not.
I was going to change it, and then I thought, no,
No,
'cause
no,
you know
no.
her anyway.
No.
So.
We're
you did know
aware
her.
that sometimes people are saying things which you think, well, we possibly. I mean, you've noticed it, but a couple of people, you think, well, they need to be protected from themselves.
Yeah,
It's
that's
too
right.
raw. It's too.
Yeah, and there were some quite raw things there with Claire.
Yeah. Don't worry.
No.
I don't think it would be personalised. So that.
I just wonder what she's doing now. People at college like that who are quite vulnerable. I've met several people like that, and you always think, I wonder where they are now, what their life's like.
Hmm.